Okay guys, we're picking back up where we left off. I actually, in the last part of this video before I restarted today, I had detailed the engine bay, blew dried about 70% with a blow dryer, blow car dryer, and sprayed my motorplast pretty liberally onto the plastic and rubber portions of the engine bay. And I actually, just for testing's sake, I let it sit over the weekend. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I like to get the engine about 70 to 80% dry after detailing it, apply the motorplast to those areas. I'll actually close the hood. You can leave it open if you want, but I'll typically close the hood. Keep doing whatever it is I need to be doing to the rest of the car. So like clay, in this case we were claying, using the clay towel and polishing the rest of the car. Give it about 20-30 minutes, and then I'll come back once the motorplast has settled a little bit, and then finish it off and do my final touches. So it is a self-leveling product, but I've just found so far that I think it's hard to apply it and make it 100% self-level. I'm not saying you couldn't do that. Like, I could see a scenario where you spray it on maybe and then come back and like blow dry it to kind of get any little bits evened out, but this is the way I like to do it. So like I said, clean the engine bay, blew dry it, sprayed it on, and just for testing purposes, I let it sit all weekend. I did the same thing on my F80 and found that this product, even though like there was some blotchiness to it from letting it sit all weekend, I can still level it off 3 days later, no problem. So super user-friendly, not hard to use at all. So the way I like to finish it off is I'll actually spray the motorplast directly into a clean towel. I've got one here quartered up. Spray it in, and then I'll go to these areas where it's maybe a little bit blotchy and just kind of work it in and level it off. Thing I like most about motorplast is the finish that it leaves. I'd say the two things I like most. One is the user-friendliness. Out of all the different products we sell for an engine bay, in terms of dressing, really you've got Gyeon Q2 trim, which is going to be the most resilient, most durable product that we have for engine bay plastics, but going to be the most intensive prep and the lowest threshold for mistakes. It's a ceramic coating, so if you leave smudges everywhere, you don't wipe it off, don't level it evenly, not good. Your plastic's probably going to need to be replaced, more than likely. So, but the upside to that is it's extremely durable. It lasts for months and years, as to where something like motorplast, you're going to probably want to reapply it really just as needed. You know, next time the engine bay gets really dirty and you bring out the Green Star and start scrubbing again, you're going to want to reapply it. The middle ground would be Angel Wax Enigma Corona. More user-friendly than Gyeon trim. It's going to last longer than motorplast. It's like right there in the middle. It is an SiO2 infused product, but you can leave streaking and smudging with Enigma Corona, and it's not going to damage anything. Like, it's not going to permanently ruin the trim, but it's a little bit smearier and like streakier than this product. So because it has that little bit of SiO2 in it, a little more wiping required, a little more tedious to apply. It's certainly not self-leveling. Like, I wouldn't just go spraying it on an engine bay, leaving it over the weekend. Could you fix it, you know, after the fact? Yes, definitely. But you're kind of going to be probably getting something like a NV Clarity Gyeon Prep and sort of like wiping it off and starting over. So that's middle of the road durability, and it does have a really good darkening effect. So that product, I can do a video series on that another time, but it has a really great capability. Like, if the engine bay plastics are super faded, starting to like turn that white chalky color, Enigma Corona is a great product for people who don't want to step into the ceramic coating territory, but they want something that's going to bring it back and make it look black again. It also adds a nice hydrophobic effect, and it's quite durable. Like, I've seen 4 to 6 months out of Enigma Corona. So it's like a great compromise for someone who wants results similar to a ceramic coating, but not willing to take the risks involved with something like Gyeon trim. Motorplast, most user-friendly. but it's like a different type of finish. Gyeon trim and Enigma Corona both have that like very dark, rich finish to it. Like it's substantially different, I would say, not in a bad way necessarily, but if you were to do like half the engine bay and not the other half, you would certainly notice a very distinct difference. It's like a darkening effect. Motorplast to me is like if you want it to look straight OEM, like it just looks like perfectly clean plastic. Like this intake here that I just put it on. You probably can't hear it on the mic. Maybe you can, but I'm rubbing my glove on it. There is zero greasiness, no like smudging to it. I do notice with Enigma Corona, even if you apply it really, really well and you buff it off and level it off well, it does have like, I don't want to say like greasiness, but I'd be more concerned about like dust sticking to that than to Motorplast. Like I really like the finish this gives. Even if you did coat your engine bay in something like Gyeon trim, Motorplast would be a great way to keep it topped up. So I'll get Vince to get some close-ups here at the engine bay, showing you all the results and the kind of finish that it leaves. But hope this helps for applying Motorplast. I'm gonna close the engine bay and get to the rest of the car. I'll show you guys how we're polishing the dealing with the extreme water spots on the PPF on this vehicle. Okay guys, so the engine bay is wrapped up. We've been working on the paint for a couple of days now, or the film actually, for a couple of days now. Lewis is back here from STEK Detail Studio in Bolingbrook, Chicago. So Chicagoland area, right?
Yeah, right outside of Chicago, about 30 minutes.
Sweet. So he's back down here again for the week. Love having Lewis here, especially in the case of this car. Every time I work with another one of the NV Pro guys, I always learn something new. We're always bouncing stuff off of each other, so it's always a educational, eye-opening experience whenever we tackle projects together. So, yeah, this car, as you guys have seen throughout the video, it's been a real big challenge. I've been doing PPF now for like 8 years, using STEK exclusively for the last 5 of those years. And this car was a little bit shocking to me. So did full body on it a year ago, super clean full body job, like one of the better film installs that I think I've done here. And I've never seen a car with so much like wear on the PPF in such a short period of time. So at first, you know, that's always a little bit of a gut-wrenching feeling as a detailer. I'm sure you know, like you do corrections, stuff like that, and you see the car 6 months later and you're like, oh my God, this person's been hammering the automatic car wash, which, you know, as a detailer, you always educate people not to do that. You know, either bring it to a professional or hand wash it and teach them.
A month later in Chicago.
Yeah.
Bentley, month later. Shot.
Car wash, yeah. So, you know, that's always a little bit of a brutal feeling or whatever, but the more years go by, you know, the less I kind of have that, you know, I don't get like upset about it or anything. It's just more like disappointing, I guess. But, you know, this customer has a ridiculously busy schedule. Even when I educated him during the process of wrapping the car, before I even sold the wrap to him, and after the wrap was complete, you know, he kind of made it clear. He said, look, you know, I'm going to do my best to care for it, but, you know, he's been going to the car wash periodically. So this is the first time I've seen a car with PPF where the film had like water spots that we couldn't 100% get out. So the horizontal panels are the ones that are most affected. So the hood, roof, and trunk lid are the ones that were hammered the most. The quarters, bumpers, doors, most of the fender, except for like the top edge of the fender, they actually came out really great. So obviously the sun played a role in this, the UV rays baking that water on. The car washes here at least, and I'm sure most like brush car washes, they use recycled water. So you've got a lot of mineral content in there, a lot of junk and dirt and sediment and soaps and cleaners, and they use quite caustic cleaners. So it's kind of like washing your car with degreaser every time. So I imagine if I had to take a guess, I would say some of these are definitely mineral deposits, but some of them it's probably a little bit of like soap scum, basically, like from the APCs and stuff that have dried up. So I'd say these panels, and I'll show you all close-ups, they're probably like 70% under this lighting. So I've already sent videos to the customer. I think he's going to be really stoked. But considering what it looked like when it came here, it was really, really bad. So just some of the takeaways before I'll let Lewis get in more to like what steps we took to get it to where it is now. We kind of threw the whole kitchen sink at this car. It was like a try everything in the cabinet sort of approach.
Yeah.
But the big takeaway, and Lewis and I have been talking about it all week, is like, yes, it's obviously not ideal. Like, you know, you would want to maintain it properly, like how a detailer recommends, hand wash, using proper products and processes and all that. But this is a $100,000 car. The full body PPF was just under about $10,000. So serious investment. That being said, the damage that was done to the PPF, had it not been wrapped, you would be in like new paint job territory. There's no wet sanding. There's no remediation for like that type of damage to paint, whether it's from neglect or car washing. So is it unfortunate that that's happened a year in? Yes, especially for me being the one that I wrapped it. It's like, oh, bummer. But gosh, I mean, it looks so much better than it would have if it were not wrapped. I mean, it's like there's no way we could have made it look like this had it come in not being wrapped. So we were kind of having the conversation of, you know, is it worth it? And there's a lot of debate online, like in forums and in Facebook groups and stuff. People are like, oh, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
You know, that's so much money. But, I mean, obviously, repainting a car like this, you're going to kill the value of the car, especially when you're repainting most of it. And they're going to have to blend it. I mean, you end up painting most of the car.
If they want a properly done paint job on this car, again, entire every panel at a factory BMW standard or better, $15,000-$20,000
easily. And so we were kind of having the conversation, like hypothetically speaking, if you have a customer that comes to you and says, hey, I know I'm going to go to the car wash, like nothing, you know, you give them the normal sales talk of, hey, you know, this protection's great, it's not bulletproof. Like this is a great reminder of that no coating, no PPF is 100% bulletproof. Obviously PPF is the most resilient, but if they say, yep, I hear you, but I don't want rock chips, I don't want swirls, I want to wrap my car and go to the car wash anyways, I would have said before this car, I probably have been like, not really worth the money. Like, you know, like why would you do that? You're going to spend 10 grand, wrap your whole car, just to
make the film look bad.
To make it like kind of destroy it. But after having this car come in, I'm like, I don't really know if I believe that still. Like this has kind of changed my mind in the sense of like, you know, really if this guy wanted to get it back to 100%, he'd be replacing 3 panels of film and he was able to go to the car wash like he wants. Now, it's definitely not good for the other surfaces of the car, like the rubber trims, the seals, the front kidney grill, some of the plastics. I'm sure even the wheels, if we were to put inspection lights on them, that car wash is just annihilating the ceramic coating. It's scratching the surfaces, it's fading the plastics. But hypothetically speaking, if someone was like, hey, I just bought my $150,000 or $200,000 car, I want to wrap it, and I know I'm going to go to the car wash,
it's worth it.
Yeah, I mean, even if you tear the film off after 3 or 4 years, it's like, look, if you had done that to a non-filmed car, it'd be destroyed. So this has kind of been in some ways, it's been a challenging project, just seeing, it's a little disheartening seeing something so, you know, like cared for like this. But at the end of the day, the value is still there for the owner, and they're able to clean the car the way they want, and it's not totally wrecked. So I'll let Lewis talk about how, like, he really took the lead on figuring out how we were going to polish this PPF and how it affects the PPF, and what we're going to do to protect it before it leaves.
So it's nice to be back, guys. Good to see you again. I have quite a bit of experience in dealing with cars that have severe water spot damage, especially being in Chicago. There are villages near my shop that all of their water is supplied with well water. And if anybody's familiar with well water, I'm pretty sure you know that that is some of the most mineral filled and most detrimental water that you can use to maintain the finish of your vehicle. In fact, last summer I did a full water spot removal on a 86 Grand National. That turned out beautifully.
That was a wet sand, right?
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
full color sand, and that had an aftermarket paint job. That was not the factory black paint that was sprayed on it in 85, 86 whenever it was built. It was 10 to 12 year old, two-stage base coat, clear coat paint job that, you know, he happened to wash outside on a hot summer day. It was 90 plus
Using well water.
degrees, well water. Ran in the house to take care of some business for 5 or 10 minutes, came back out, type 2 water spots everywhere. And I mean, we tried the first time to do a light polish and they all came back, and the second time we did the full 9. So
Explain that a little bit, how a lot of people, that's common in hardcore correction detailer world, but most people don't understand the sun and how that can affect.
like a lot of people don't realize that whatever you have on the surface of your vehicle, the sun magnifies or intensifies the damaging items inside them much more. If a bird poops on your car on a hot summer day, the surface of the car is hot, hotter than the ambient air for sure, because it's absorbing the heat from the sun, especially on a darker color
It's
car.
quite hot. Yep.
You got a black car, it's easy for that panel to reach 100 plus 80 degrees on a hot sunny day. So imagine bird poop with all the enzymes and bodily chemicals, base acidic fluids that come out the bird bodies land on the car, sits there in the sun, it bakes, it etches into the clear coat. The longer it sits, the more time it has to react with the paint, the deeper the damage is allowed to seep into the surface, the more work it's going to require a professional to remove from the surface of your car, if possible. To go deeper into detail with that, there are 2 different types of water spottings. You got type 1, which are minerals on the surface of the car. A lot of times, if you catch them early enough, you can wash the car again, and most of that stuff will come right off. On the worst case scenario on a type 1, you might have to use something like Gyeon water spot remover to remove them from the surface of the car, but you won't necessarily have to step into some of the more aggressive procedures that we use to try and get this vehicle to the level that we did get it back to, with the level of water spotting that was essentially on every surface on the car. And then you got the type 2 water spots, which is what we ran into here.
It's penetrated the surface.
It's no longer just surface level sitting on the surface. It is now in the substrate. It is penetrated through into the paint, into the film, the paint protection film, into the clear coat. And in very absolute worst case scenarios, it can penetrate down to the base coat if allowed to sit that long, go unchecked for that long. And depending on the total dissolved solvent TDS number of the water, that's just going to play a major role into the level of damage that water is able to do. So that's something you just want to keep in mind. Now,
and with the sun, not to cut you off, but you were touching on a good point there. A lot of detailers, again, know this, but most people at home probably don't. If you polish your paint, so the paint, my understanding, it's in the sun, it's actually expanding, it's swelling, it's contracting. So your paint's not just stagnant. It's actually expanding and contracting over time. So what will happen is you'll see guys, and I see posts all the time, newer detailers a lot of times, they'll polish a car that has water spots, type 2, not type 1, ones that have actually etched and penetrated the surface. And we were discussing if we thought this would be the case with PPF as well, not just clear coat. And we both believe it probably is. Then you park your car out in the sun on a hot summer day, and your water spots are back. It looked like the car was perfect, and they're back. So what we'll do here is, you can't see them in the shop, but we have quite large infrared curing lamps over there that very much so simulate the sun, the UV, the temperature and everything. So not the UV, but the temperature. And so we'll bake the panel after we polish it to see if those spots will rise back up to the surface. So it's hard to tell on the roof, the hood, and the trunk if they came back, because it's about a 70% job. But I feel like they didn't come back too much, but we'll see. It's a dark colored car. when he really parks it out once it's like spring, summertime
Uh-huh.
again. But that's just something interesting to know. So, you know, if you're a detailer out there and you have the ability to use lamps, definitely recommend doing it so you don't have to repolish a car again. That can cause a lot of headaches. So,
Polish a panel, throw the lamp on it, bake it for 15 to 20 minutes, and see if they come back. Because 9 times out of 10, if they're deep enough, if they're bad enough, I know most of the time if it's just dealing with clear coat, luckily we're on film. So I feel like the film might be resisting or resisted
yeah,
absorbing
it's
as much as the paint would have.
yeah,
So it doesn't have the ability to re-release minerals from the surface once we cause an expansion and contraction heat cycle using a lamp. Whereas I know multiple times on vehicles, I've
yeah,
done an entire correction, gone to
yeah.
bake the ceramic coating on it.
The outline. That's usually like the outline of
All
the
of
water
them came
spot
back
comes
through
back.
the
Yeah.
water, through the ceramic coating, and I had to completely repolish the entire vehicle out a second time after it's been coated and recoated again. But this time, before I coated it, I baked it again to double check.
Yeah.
And another thing that we use another thing that we do usually or can try is to use the lamp to slightly warm the surface and then polish immediately after that while there is some heat inside the surface of the vehicle. Ideally, that isn't something that you would want to do, but in instances like this where you are trying to remove a severe degree of contamination that is embedded into the surface, the heat does allow what you're doing to offer a bit more work, which I will cover once I get into some of the more aggressive forms of how we tried to come up with a methodology to remove and get this vehicle to where we got it to. Essentially, when it first came in, the car had water spotting all over it, and before we even dived into it, we really didn't know if it was a type 1 or type 2. We just know that it had a
Yeah.
water spot issue that needed to be addressed. And like most detailers, our process is to start from the least aggressive to the most aggressive method to try and achieve the same result. So with that being said, of course, we washed the vehicle. Washing the vehicle did nothing for it, so we stepped up to
That and a clay towel is what I
that and a
use.
clay
Yep.
towel. Gyeon water spot remover. I'm
Hmm.
sorry, I always mess that saying up.
Either way.
But Gyeon water spot remover, Q2M. Use that on the surface. Spray
It
it
helped a
on.
little bit.
Yeah,
It removed some of like the surface ones, but
yeah,
yeah.
it lightened them up a touch,
Yeah.
but it was still obvious as day that they were there. It didn't get it to look anything near like this per se. So to take it to the next level up, we moved into this.
The Koch wheel acid. So it's funny because earlier in the video you weren't here when I prepped the car, but
Yeah.
I talked about how I think Gyeon water spot's a bit stronger than NV Shift, at least from my experience.
Yeah.
But I talked about in the video, you know, I'm like, I feel like we need a stronger acid for
right.
cases like this. Really, this is a professional use product. Like it's a pH of 0.2. It's extremely strong. I mean, it's a pure acid. So.
Not something we would generally recommend
Yeah.
you to play around with at home because
Yeah.
a mistake with this will be very
Cause a
costly
headache. Yeah.
for you in a cosmetic manner. And
Professional use, it's extremely valuable, and any of the pros that be watching this would know that. You know, for really baked, caked on brake dust wheels, and then for water spots like this. So, you showed me a really cool thing I had never heard of or tried before, but I'll let you explain it with the acid after we had washed the car.
yeah, so once we decided that this water spot remover wasn't going to work, we decided to step into pretty much pure acid. I have a few different methods that I like to try with the pure acid in order to remove things because I've had success with them before in the past. We sprayed it on the surface, let it sit, wiped it down, then recleaned the surface with a waterless wash type of product. That barely made things effective. That wasn't very effective with just a wash on and wipe on. So therefore, I decided to use the cordless ShineMate 21 millimeter throw with the 5-inch backing plate polisher, random orbital long pro polisher, along with a Lake Country black HDO foam pad and I had a 50-50 1-to-1 mixture in a Marilex spray bottle of this acid along with water. I put a few sprays into the pad, and I used the polisher on speed 1 or 2 to actually give the abrasion of the pad. This is one of the more softer pads. This isn't a pad where in a paint correction you're doing heavy cutting with. This is a finishing pad, burnishing pad, jeweling pad. However you want to look at it, this is the pad that I'm using in the final steps of adding the gloss to the vehicle. So it's not aggressive by any means like these blue pads or the medium orange pad on here. It's not aggressive at all. It's a finishing pad. So don't think that I'm trying to scrub them out the surface by using it, but in a way I am trying to scrub them out the surface with the assistance of an acidic product, where I'm allowing it to work. I got the friction of the pad against the surface. It could generate some slight form of heat. I'm not expecting it to, considering this is non-abrasive, but I'm just really looking for that deep scrubbing, cleaning action of working it into the surface, as opposed to just a quick smear, let it sit on the surface, wipe it off, and then clean it off immediately to dilute to make sure I'm neutralizing the acid on the surface of the vehicle. I tried that process, and while it lightened it up just a touch, it still didn't deliver a satisfactory enough result for us to be like, okay, well, I mean, we could just knock this process out on the whole car.
It made me wonder too, like on coated cars, like we all face that, you know, with ceramic coated cars, not PPF. You know, if I use a water spot remover in the traditional way, like I did earlier in the video, where I just, you know, put it on the surface. I did use the clay towel, which you probably wouldn't do that on a coated car because you're going to scuff the coating a little bit. But like using like a zero finish or a wash pad, whatever, to work it in.
Right.
If that doesn't work, I'm normally like, all right, we need to polish and recoat that area. But I'll probably try that technique in the future on cars that are coated, because I feel like you could, I mean, definitely do that and not mar the surface, or obviously it's not going to take the coating off. But it's probably going to let the water spot, the acid work better.
To be honest, I came up with just trying that. I really didn't necessarily see that anywhere. I was just in the shop one day thinking like, what can I do to take what I'm doing at the entry level form and take it to the next level before I truly commit to polishing this whole thing out again. Because once I commit to polishing it out, I have to put the time of polishing the entire vehicle out, whereas this can achieve high desirable results in a much shorter amount of time than it's going to take for me to figure out a combination of a pad, polish, machine speed, and this process can change around the vehicle depending on the severity of the defect as well. I could get dialed in on the hood, get to the trunk, and need to do something completely different to achieve the same results that I got on the hood. So it's like, I just try and think in a scientific way of ways to increase the aggression of things without overly increasing. I like to try and step by step my way up into the most work before I just dive right into the most aggressive and most intrusive form of labor. So with that said, that did not work. The next step up that we tried is the STEK formula fusion. This is a chemical based.
Yeah, so I have a lot of experience with this. This is the first thing, just like Lewis is saying, you know, you never want to go straight to the highest, you know, form of aggressiveness, whatever it is, polishing, cleaning stuff, chemicals and all that. So pad selection, everything. But Fusion is made by STEK. It's their PPF cleaner, so it's a non-abrasive, sort of like an all-in-one for the paint. It's like an all-in-one for the PPF, and you can actually use it on paint. I've done that before. And, you know, the only cut you're getting from this, the only friction or abrasiveness, is your pad selection. So it is a chemical cleaner for the PPF. I have seen it work really well. Again, this has been, you know, exceptional in terms of like the damage. Like normally with STEK PPF, my experience at least has been like bird poop etchings, water spots. A lot of times, just parking the car in the sun. Like if you wash it, park it in the sun, it's gone. It's gone. Or we'll take it in here, and I'll maybe take the heat gun, give it like that direct heat source. That'll get it gone. Even like the self-healing and scratches. But in cases where like if we had caught this car maybe at the very beginning of when this damage started to happen with like the water spotting, this would have been a great product.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
you put it, typically I like either, I'll start with black pad, just like he did with the acid because it's the least aggressive. But typically I find like, because if I'm putting a polisher on the PPF, it's because there's something that's not coming off,
Right.
you know, or it's maybe got like a stain. Like I've actually seen where like leaves, when they get wet
Yep.
on a white car with
I've seen it.
PPF, it will leave sort of an outline of the leaf.
Uh-huh.
And it's a little discolored. So like typically I find an orange HDO pad in this will fix it. I mean, you can't detect that it was there. And it does leave behind a hydrophobic layer. So it has SiO2 in it. So the idea is that anytime you polish PPF, I'd say, at least in my opinion, past a black pad on a low speed, once you get into orange pad, blue HDO, microfiber, or even like we even tried wool on this car, you're burnishing the top coat of the film, which we can get into that in a little bit. But the idea is that you're burnishing as minimum as possible. So again, the only cut is from the pad. So like in the case of an orange pad, I've done it on customers' cars, you know, where I do like 1 3-inch area,
Yeah.
orange pad fusion. It leaves some hydrophobic topper to it, but
Yeah.
even 6 months down the road when you've washed it a bunch and that hydrophobic topper's gone, you can't like see where I polished it.
Yeah.
So it's not aggressive. Like it's not going to damage the top coat. You can even use it by hand. I've sold it to customers, given them a 3-inch pad and said, you know, if you got a bug gut stain or something that won't come out, just hit it with that. So that is the least aggressive zero abrasiveness approach, but that did nothing.
Yeah.
So.
And so from there, we ended up stepping into the blue HDO pad on the ShineMate 21 millimeter 5-inch backing plate. Really enjoying that machine, by the way. Along with the Koch Chemie Heavy Cut H9. It did do a really good job, you know, initially.
Mm-hmm.
It's just with the way that I try to think and look at things, I like to try and purpose. Back at home, I got 75, 80 different types of compounds and polishes on my shelf I pluck from.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I use all of them. There is no 2 jobs where I use the same product in, because I try and take a scientific approach from everything that I do. And I've been using Menzerna for well over a decade. I mean, I was using heavy cut compound when it was FG400. And I can't remember what it was called before it was FG400, but I was using it before it was FG400 as well. Fast Gloss 400 is what it was called before this. And the thing that I like about the Menzerna product, as it does have a higher solvent content than some of the other polishes I have on my shelf. It is a bit oily too, but it does have a higher solvent content. And so my thought process and thinking was, Menzerna HC Heavy Cut 400 has a diminishing compound because it is known as the ultimate one-step compound, as it starts off as a really aggressive heavy cut compound. You can do some serious work with this stuff, but as you work it, the longer you work it, it breaks down into a medium polish and then finally finishes out
Really
at
well.
about the level of a finishing polish. So I've done thousands of one-step corrections with as many bottles of this stuff as I've gone through over, you know, the past decade plus. So I know that it has more solvent to offer, and my thought process in breaking it out of switching from the heavy cut Koch product to the heavy cut Menzerna product is that I have the full scale of a compound down to a finishing polish as far as abrasive goes. And then I have a higher solvent content, which I felt would assist with the breaking down and removal of the minerals from the surface of the film. So by using this product along with that machine on a higher speed, along with the solvent content like Nick touched on off camera, this product generally creates a bit more heat in the surface from those solvents due to the friction, the combination of the solvents, the oils, and the abrasives breaking down through that cycle. That combination of things allowed that polishing process to remove the water spots from the surface of the vehicle to work a whole lot more uniformly
Yeah.
across the surface that I found over the heavy cut. Whereas the heavy cut, in some areas, it did a really good job of leveling them down well, and you would really have to, dance around and use the ambient light at the right angle to still
Yeah.
find the water spot on the panel. Whereas once I switched over to the Menzerna, I realized it created an evenness, whereas, as he touched on, he's expressed to the client already, the top panels, we are only going to be able to achieve so much. The
Yeah.
sun has done its damage.
It's not a perfect job.
It's not a perfect job. The customer wasn't looking for a perfect job. He was looking for an improvement because he had no intention on replacing the film that he just had installed last year. So
Yeah.
his goal was to just get his car back looking, to an acceptable standard. You said he's parked outside. It's
Yeah,
not
it does.
garage
It
kept,
does live
so,
outside.
I mean, it's not getting babied like a lot of some of these cars that we put this film on. So it's like that's something else that
It's been in like a torture test in a
yeah,
sense for me because it very well could have happened to other clients' cars in the past, but I've just not seen them again.
yeah,
You just don't hear from them. But this it's been kind of a cool experience for me seeing this. I mean, it's unfortunate in some ways, but
yeah,
overall, I think it just speaks volumes to like how great of a product it is. I mean,
yeah,
there's a lot of, I think detailers almost more the consumers. Some consumers can fall into this, but they get like disappointed at the performance of things.
yeah,
Like I know probably early on in my career, maybe 8 years ago when I first got into film, if something like this happened, I would have been like, oh my gosh, do I need to switch PPF? Like it makes you kind of go in this downward spiral of like, you're searching for that perfect product. But at the
yeah.
end of the day, I've done this long enough now, I know none of it's perfect. But I mean, 10, 15 years ago, you couldn't have treated a car like this.
Absolutely.
It would have destroyed the car. I mean,
Destroyed it.
that you'd be calling your insurance company. And
It's just
so it's not perfect, but it's pretty amazing how the car looks considering what it's gone through.
it's
So
just a lot of places in the industry has led to this trend of trying to sell paint perfection film or paint perfection coatings in a way, whereas the real world, after 17 plus years of experience in the detailing industry, is that does not exist.
yeah, there's no magic bullet.
I sell paint protection. I can make your car look as gorgeous as what I am given to start with will allow. Um, but when I'm selling the paint protection film job or ceramic coating, by all means, I'm selling them as a form of a sacrificial layer
Yeah,
for what's the most important thing on the car, and that is the paint.
yeah,
I don't want to see the paint get beat up. I don't want to see rock chips, scratches, swirl marks, deep
yeah,
etches, bug gut etches, tree leaf etches, and all of the various other things that can happen to a paint surface. If there's something that I can do that can help it maintain its aesthetic value over the life of its ownership, that's what I sell. That's
yeah,
what the purpose of this film is. That's where the value in these products and services come in. So many people get so caught up in, oh man, I got a film installed and the film isn't perfect no more. I mean,
yeah,
I've had customers, I've installed a full front and I did 3 fenders in a matter of 6 months after the initial install, just because, oh, they got a little nick. Oh, it's a rock that hit it. That's what
yeah,
it's for.
yeah,
One little rock chip in it does not matter. It's not
yeah,
in the paint, it's in the film. That's what
yeah.
it's for. Beat the film up.
Give
And
it a
once
year
it
or
gets
something.
to a
And
point
then,
where it's
yeah,
unacceptable entirely, then yank it. While I do get some of us out here might have, a little bit of more
yeah,
OCD than others
yeah,
about our vehicles, it's there to protect the car, for you to enjoy your investment, especially, this is an M3, the ultimate driving machine,
yeah,
as they call it. So if it's something made to be driven, spirited, to be enjoyed, protect your
yeah,
investment and go beat on it. And then
yeah,
yank the film off and throw it away. Why consume your mind with the
I
perfect?
think detailers can get. I agree. I mean, I think detailers can get wrapped up in that more. So is like finding like look, I've had amazing experience with STEK. I've had not great experiences with other films. I've had okay, acceptable experiences with other films, pretty good experiences. But for me, STEK has been the best. Like, but I still know, and I tell it to the customers, it's not bulletproof, and this has been a great example of that.
Yep.
But I'm also not going to go into, a mode of going, okay, maybe I need to search for a new film or a new coating or whatever it is, because they all have their threshold.
In
And
my
like,
eyes, it's called PPF. This PPF
yeah.
did its job. It's paint
Oh,
protection
for sure.
film. The film is protected.
For sure.
100% positive. We peel one of these panels of film off and inspect the paint underneath it.
It'll be flawless.
Flawless.
Yeah.
Not a rock, chip, scratch, or swirl in it. And that's what it's there for.
Yeah.
You know?
And as far as like the perfection or protection, not perfection, I think that's totally true. Like there's definitely, I think some people in the industry that unfortunately use that to like sell a subpar install. They say, look, it's just protection. Like we can go around this car and show the edges and the corners and stuff. And it's taken me a long time to learn how to do them like this, but it is very good. Like it's a very good install. It's not perfect because no PPF install is perfect. No paint job is perfect.
Yeah.
But, it's, this is a very high quality install, but I think what you said is very important about not, it's protection, not perfection. I think that applies to the long term. Like, there's a lot of these products that it's almost like there's the warranty wars where one manufacturer bumps it up and then the other one matches it and then another one outdoes that and they all catch up.
Yeah.
And now we're to the point where coatings are warranted for 10 years and stuff. And like, I don't buy into that just based on what I've seen with my experiences. I mean, could you hypothetically do that? Well, sure. I mean, we could put a sealant or a wax on a car and drive it 1 month of the year and it could last 5 years. I mean, that's very realistic, but that's not really how they're marketing it or how they're intending it. So, like, while this is disappointing, at the same time, it wouldn't matter what brand you used. STEK's a great film. There's many others that are also awesome out there, but they all have it is protection. It's not perfection.
Yeah.
So, if you want to keep your car perfect, the best thing you can do is maintain the hell out of it, wash it regularly by hand using quality products. If you have a garage, keep it in a garage, and even then, if you drive it, especially if it's daily, it's not going to stay perfect. But that's kind of why the protection's there, is to take the
If you want to keep your
the
car
beating.
perfect, put it in a bubble and don't drive it.
Yeah, don't drive it. Exactly. So, but yeah, so leading on to the next thing, this is the first time I've had to compound STEK film. So all modern paint protection films, like each manufacturer offers different like levels. Like they have like a standard film with, I don't know if it's no top coating, but it's like very minimal. Like it's just like a basic TPU, and then they offer higher grades of film that have like different types of top coatings,
self-healing only, self-healing, and
plus hydrophobic, and so on. So I have only installed Dyno Shield for the last 5 years and some of their fashion films, the colorized PPF. So Dyno Shield has their self-healing hydrophobic top coat. So part of what that top coating does is it not only provides hydrophobic effect, there's SiO2 ingrained in the top coating of the film. It not only provides the self-healing, it also is what gives you the UV resistance. So before these films advanced and came with these better top coats, the sun, which still, TPU, if you put it on a daily that's parked outside for 10 years, it's going to fade. I mean, it's going to yellow and brown. But back then it was a major issue. Like literally you could wrap the front end of a white car.
2 months later.
Yeah, it's a different shade. So part of what that top coating does is provide protection against environmental contamination, water spots, which in this case, that's probably my biggest concern for this owner or for this car is I feel like that's going to happen again. Obviously, I'm going to discourage going to the car wash, but if it's outside, it's going to get rained on and the sun's going to come out and all that. So when you compound the film, you are burnishing the top coat. And so this is going to be a really, we didn't go as hard on the other panels. Really, the panels we hammered on were the trunk, the roof, and the hood. So we're going to coat the film in STEK Formula Quartz, the professional coating from STEK, to try and not reconstitute, but put some more protection on the film so that it's not extremely susceptible to things like bird droppings, water spots, stuff like that. My experience personally, and just my opinion on it, is I don't think coatings last the same on film as they do on paint. And I know there's coatings that are designed specifically for PPF, like STEK. It's not a PPF coating, but it is a coating that they developed to work with their film. But it's actually a warranted coating. But if you read the warranty, it does not cover. It's not warranted on PPF.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing, because the science doesn't really make sense to me. You know, you've got these solvents and carriers that are made to penetrate the clear coat. It actually becomes part of the paint. Well, how's that happening with plastic? Like, to me, it's like it's sitting on top of it. So, you know, I'm going to recommend he come back every 6 to 12 months, and putting ceramic coating on PPF is not hard. It's not rocket science. It's very easy. It's not nearly as labor intensive as putting it on clear coat. So,
Much less labor.
yeah, so that's what we're going to do to try and compensate for the fact that we more or less burnished off the top coating on those panels. So we'll show you guys the results, how some of these panels came out, and show it after the ceramic coating's put on and everything, and show you guys the final results. So appreciate you guys watching. I'll put the links to all the products that I used in this in the description. The only exception is Menzerna. We don't sell this, but just out of honesty, you know, I wanted to show it in the video. Like I said, literally threw the kitchen sink at this. Everything I have, I mean, I even ordered this product. I eventually wanted to stock it anyways, but because of what we were dealing with, I went ahead and ordered it from Brad. So, you know, this was an interesting experience. I learned a lot, and it kind of made me change my mind about people who want to get PPF and maybe not do optimal maintenance. I still think there's value in it. So thanks always, Lewis, for coming out here, man, and helping us. Hope you guys learned a lot, and we'll show those final results. And as always, please like, subscribe. Let us know if you guys have any topics that you want us to cover. I've been getting a lot of good texts and DMs from people of various topics, so I'm actually going to knock a couple of those out this week. So I know I already signed off on the video, but I wanted to, we just pulled the car outside next morning after coating it with quartz, and wanted to show you guys outside. Actually really impressed and pleasantly surprised with how good the car looks, especially the hood, roof, and trunk, the areas that were most affected with water spots. But this happens a lot where I worry about stuff inside under the inspection lighting and then pull it outside and I'm pleasantly surprised. So in this case though, I was definitely not expecting that to happen. And today it's pretty overcast out here. The sun's kind of peeking through the clouds, but obviously the client's still going to see these spots, and I'll let him know that in settings like at night at a gas station where you got the overhead lighting and if the lighting outside is just right. But overall, I think it turned out amazing considering what we were dealing with. You can still see, especially on like the jet black. Let's see here, sorry. Might be hard to pick up on the camera, but there's still some water spots that you can see out here. But overall, it looks really, really good considering how it arrived. My consensus is it has been changed by this project. In the past, people have asked me the question very directly, if I'm gonna go to the car wash, should I still wrap my car? I tend to lean towards, probably not. I mean, why would you invest that much money, you know, just to kind of degrade the film and cause so much damage? But this has changed my mind on that to a degree. I would still obviously advise people not go to a brush car wash. It is not good for your car. It's not good for the PPF, all the surfaces, like I've mentioned numerous times in the video. But this car looks really good considering the type of care it's had and that it's parked outside. I would say that the investment for the full body PPF has more than paid for itself at this point. It would look better if it was hand washed, but all things considered, the paint underneath this film is perfect. And overall, the film actually looks really good. So this is a huge testament to STEK Dyno Shield and high grade paint protection film in general. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed watching, and we'll do more videos like this in the future. Make sure to give us a like, subscribe, follow us. Check us out on parksdetailing.com, parkscarcare.net, and make sure to shoot me messages if you have any videos that you want to see us make, and we'll make sure to get around to it. Thanks for watching.